Hello, beautiful people. My name is Kristen. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I've got my monthly book reviews, and like some people, I'm blessed with a little extra time this month, so I read a couple more than I normally do, and that's exciting for me also because I liked quite a few of what I read, so hopefully you will be inspired to pick up something or leave me a comment with what you're reading and enjoying. So the first book I read this month was the Sherlock Holmes, Conan, Arthur Doyle, and this is the one that has probably 30 very short, quick little adventures of Sherlock Holmes, who is the detective, and his friend Watson, who is a physician but also the recorder of the stories and is the one who tells it and kind of unlocks, and we kind of go along with him to discover the mystery of how Sherlock thinks. And it's pretty cute because every time I'm reading it, I'm always picturing Robert Downey Jr. or, the actor as Sherlock. So that's kind of fun, right? And the next one is also the Conan Arthur Doyle's The Hounds of Baskerville. This is one novel of an extended story of Sherlock Holmes Watson that was also kind of part legend, spooky ghost story, if you will, with a mystery to solve. And it was very entertaining, very good. I really liked it. I really appreciated reading some of the roots of a lot of other mystery writers that have kind of taken up that kind of thought process. And then the interesting nonfiction book that went along with that was Conan Doyle for Defense, who's this by? Margarlit Fox. And so she writes an account of the true story of mysteries and unsolved crime, I guess, if you will, back in the time that they came and pleaded to him to solve. Basically, they didn't have all the DNA testing and things like that we have now. And so when someone was falsely accused, maybe it was harder to prove that. And so they brought in some of Sherlock's reasoning to help facilitate some true life crime solving. And this was a easy read, very interesting, liked it, loved reading them together. So literary appreciation box is a good one that put those together, and I really enjoyed doing that. I plan this month to go through the Jules Verne with the history of science fiction, so I'll be reporting on that next month. The next book I read was The Alice Network. This is by Kate Quinn. Yeah, Kate Quinn. And this is probably my number one recommendation from all the books that I read this month. This is a historical fiction based off of women's spy network in World War II, or World War I, and then it lasted into World War II. And many of the characters, of course, are fictitious, but some of them are based absolutely on real life women and tried to actually recreate conversations or events that actually literally happened during this time period. And it was suspenseful. I got attached to characters that were in here. It was just a great read. I think I have read many historical fiction on World War II, but this one's really centered on World War I, which was interesting to learn a little bit more from that perspective. So, you read probably more nonfiction than fiction on that for me personally. So if you have other World War I historical fiction books, leave those for me because I'd be interested in reading some more. So this one I highly, highly recommend. I think it's a Reese Witherspoon book club one too. So that was probably my favorite read of the month. However, I did enjoy Lisa Scottoline's Come Home. So Kathy sent me this. I can link her channel below. Thank you for doing that book exchange for me. I sent her the copy of her other book. So this one is a story of mom who's getting ready to have a second marriage, but her stepdaughter from the first marriage comes back and brings a suicide that she believes is actually a murder. And so we find this out early on in the book, and then that causes some family struggles and ties and back and forth kind of angst, and kind of threatens some of her current stability of her life. And it's just a fun little rompy read. Sometimes my only Disclaimer is that it was a little too easy or predictable, maybe in some parts, but I can go with that. Sometimes we need a light, easy read, and it was interesting because that went along with my Sherlock Holmes and all of that kind of mystery writing, and I wasn't really trying to do that. It just kind of happened, and that was fun. So next, I read William Blake's book of poetry in the Penguin hardbound classics. So this is just about 100 pages of brilliant illustrations, and these are actually his journal pages where he wrote it, with the little short poems, and I just took some time to really enjoy them, savor them. And the backstory on William Blake is, when I was staying with my grandmother for some extended time, she told me and helped me with a genealogy project when I was in 3rd grade that went all the way back 13 generations to Ira Beale, who supposedly, she said, sailed over on the 3rd sailing of the Mayflower, although there's several ships named the Mayflower now, I've discovered, and was friends with William Blake, and supposedly they wrote about each other in each other's journals. So whether that is true or not, I remembered reading the Tiger, Tiger, Burning Bright in my childhood upbringing, and so as an adult it's been fun to go back and read it, and there's a lot of really clever, I appreciate this author, and it also inspired me to do some digging and some genealogy and some research, and I did learn a lot of things. There was absolutely a lot of Ira Beales because they named each other for the fathers, and I saw their gravestones, and I have no doubt that I probably am related to those, although I haven't been able to secure the relationship between he and William Blake. So I will probably never know the truth of that, but why not believe my grandmother? That's an awesome story. So then I picked up this book at a library sale for $2 called Mayflower. And this is a nonfiction book all about the sailing of the Mayflower. And it was fascinating. I loved it. And it was really actually soothing to read during this time of a pandemic, because I did not realize, like, there were sailings of a ship of like 400 people, and 100 of them would make it because of disease, of starvation, of scurvy, all these different issues that you would have to face. And people knew the odds, and they were willing to get on the ships because they wanted freedom. They wanted to make economic gains. They wanted religious freedoms, right? And so it's kind of almost a little bit like our struggle now in society, right? We have to balance out this safety versus liberties and freedoms. And it's not all or nothing and one-sided. And you can kind of get the spirit of this struggle, right? These people angsting over these decisions and when you should make these journeys and risk these things. And then a whole lot is after they come to the colonies and deal with the Indians, they even record the first Thanksgiving and the actual events surrounding that, if you will, and it was a great read. This author wrote 2 or 3 other nonfiction books, historical, so I plan to put those on my to be read list later on. If you have any interest in that kind of history, I can recommend that one. Then I also read, sorry it's blowing out a little, here you go, They Made a Revolution, 1776, and who's this one by? Jules Archer. And this one is a easy read, couple 170 page book, goes into each of the 4 fathers and mothers and talks about their story recreated from their letters and actual historical documents left by them, who they were, what was important to them. And I learned some new tidbits of things that was just absolutely fascinating. Probably my favorite one of all was Jefferson, when he got married and they were going to honeymoon at Monticello, which was being still built at that time, and so they got caught in a snowstorm, and by the time they had to abandon their carriage, and they made it through with the horses, and it was 2 feet of snow by the time they got there, and the servants had already given up that there was no way that they were going to get there, and they had to light their own fires, and they basically opened a bottle of wine and just laughed at the absurdity of how this was a crazy, silly way to start a marriage and toast their marriage. And it was just such a cute little thing. So it personalizes and brought a lot of historical information that I already knew into a more personalized account, and it was fun and it's easy. I think I read it in like 2 sittings. Speaking of light and airy, I pick up Nora Roberts when I want something just totally kind of frivolous or whatever for a fun little love story. So this one's Irish Dreams. It's actually 2 stories. It is her 3rd and 4th novel, Irish Rebel and Sullivan's Woman. And Irish Rebel was cute. It was about horses and the trainer who comes and falls, of course, for the owner's daughter, and there's differences in class and they have to get over that, and it was cute. The second one, Sullivan's Woman, was the model, starving artist, waitress person who gets taken in by the artist, and then the artist kind of falls for her, and it was a little weak but easy read to get through. So anyway, a good Nora Roberts when you're just looking to kind of cleanse your palate and have something whimsical. It is definitely one of those. And then my last read is another classic, Emma, and this is another if you like romance, this is another good classic to start with. She is just she's all about matchmaking and saying she doesn't want to get married, but she really enjoys the kind of art of romance and tying people together, and it does a good job of character development of multiple people who are interacting and then trying to figure out who's going to end up with who kind of thing. And so it's this kind of, I pictured in my head as this kind of Victorian sitcom drama, romantic, almost comedy. It was a fun read, and I would definitely absolutely recommend this to somebody who is looking to read a classic that was into romance. It's pretty cute and clever, and a lot of the characters were very enjoyable. So those are my books that I read this month. I look forward to reading some more. I'm going to kind of focus on some of those Jules Verne and see what else the month holds for me. Go ahead and leave me a comment what you're reading. Everybody have a safe, super blessed day, and I will talk to you later. Thanks, y'all. Bye-bye.